on this physical plane. So we're the ones who educated them. We gave them life. We gave them life. But as divine retribution, we're pretty much being paid for transgressing from the laws of the Most High. We transgress. So this is what we have to go to till we get right again, till we tap into our higher selves and become righteous people again, be upright, deliver perpendicular. So some of this information is reiterated in some Sufi teachings. I'm going to read a little bit from some literature regarding the Sufi teachings. Throughout world history, religion has always had its exoteric, E-X-O-T-E-R-C, external, and its esoteric, E-S-O-T-E-R-I-C, internal metaphysical side. See, I'm just breaking down some of the esoteric, but the general masses deal with the exoteric. The EX, we dealing with, right now, I'm breaking down some of the esoteric. The religions of ancient Kemet, India, China, Judea, Persia, etc., all conform to this dual tradition. Because it is a requisite of the higher schools and the higher development that there should be one form of religion for the masses and another more hidden type for those with the inner capacity and inclination to appreciate and understand it. So that makes sense, because I was just telling Sean, I was just telling the Sheik that I had an ex-girlfriend of mine who was in the church and it never worked out, because you know how I am. And even when I tone it down, it's a problem with her. And the church is deeply embedded in her. And I was breaking down degrees and breaking and going in and going in, and she just wouldn't get it. And I realized that she's been conditioned only for the exoteric. The internal esoteric information that I'm trying to give her, it just doesn't compute. It's not resonating. So it's like, she's just one of those who is just embedded in her DNA. It's going to take a divine happening for her to come to an awakening. And I may not be the person to give her that awakening. You know, even when I tried to dumb it down on a basic rudimentary level, a basic ABC level, it just didn't resonate. The pastor and the preacher, he was right and I was wrong. So I had to let it be. It goes on to say that, furthermore, these esoteric philosophies are identical in essence, although in their externals they may differ very widely. Before we discuss this, the inner script, let's characterize the self generally. Man is portrayed as asleep. He is simply mechanical. To be mechanical means to depend on external circumstances. He refers to himself as if that I self was one or unity. The fact is that this assumed I is multiple, each aspect of which is based upon environmental influences. He has one permanent and unchangeable I. The rudimentary goal of esotericism is to study the non-self, because it is the initiate can admit not being, then the possibilities of becoming open. The state of being a Negro is an expression of a non-being. So some of our people have that Negro mentality. They exemplify the non-being. They're not alive because they're stuck in that box. They can't see outside of that Negro mentality. And that's just the term they use, they use a Negro. The term Negro is derived from the word nekros, which means dead. This defines the collective state of diasporic and many continental Africans. It manifests itself in a life of powerless reaction, shame, suffering, and death. The first stage in esoteric school is to transcend this mechanism through a process of self-work, orientation, and the basics of civilization and nation building. The most important learning is related to diet. This self-learning may be described as follows. Negro, shame, suffering, and death, dunya. Acceptance of path to righteousness, cancellation of the invention of the Negro. Desire for a righteous name, Talib. Righteous man, embodiment of attributes, realization after years of traveling the path. The reacquisition of our names is designed to negate our inordinate dependence on Western civilization. It helps us to discover our own godliness. However, this remains an external modality. It is still us versus them. Far positive levels of development higher than this. A theosophical aspect, but few paid much attention to it. So again, it talks about that Negro mentality. It talks about being righteous. Beyond externalities, it now centers on self-development. The 7 degrees or planes represent stages of growth and is a paradigm for the inner circle. These stages represent different approaches to the religion. 4 of the 7 can be illustrated as follows: physical religion, emotional religion, mental religion, spiritual religion. Unfortunately, very few seekers studied this teaching, and the few that did were ostracized or often labeled. From a Sufi standpoint, the 7 planes starts with the concept of nafs, which refers to self and to breath. According to Idris Shah, Sufi development requires a seeker to pass through 7 stages of preparation before the individual is ready for full function. And it's interesting, I had a conversation with a friend, and he was making some derogatory terms toward women. I was, at first it was kind of funny, then I realized, I said, this brother really got a problem. So I didn't want to, check him like I was his father or something. So I spoke to him on another day. And I told him, I said, would you want somebody to talk to your mother like that? Or would you want somebody to talk to your child's mother like that, even though you're not together? Nah, but yada, yada, yada. You see what I'm saying? I told him, I said, bro, I'm a full believer of karma. I said, you might reincarnate, come back as a child, and somebody do that right in front of your mother, and you can't do nothing. Because you're just a child. So what goes around, come around. I'm a full believer in karma. Because there's certain things I did that was wrong, it came right back to haunt me. And I had to be man enough to say, you know what, I was wrong in what I did. And it came back, and that was a lesson I had to learn. Now another quote-unquote adapt, and this goes back to a little bit when Zion Lex was talking about Sumer and Babylonia and Cush, ancient Cush. Those are ancient cultures. Gets his name from the youngest son of Ham, who was Canaan. The Canaanites were the primordial aborigines of the land of Canaan. We may call them quote-unquote Africans because of their blood relationship to the other inhabitants of the African continent. There were 11 Canaanite tribes living in the land of Canaan surrounding it before the quote-unquote black Israelites possessed it. So you had 11 different Canaanite tribes that were there before the quote-unquote Israelites. All right? So that's very, very important information, because when those brothers get into discourse, that's the question. Who were you before you were called Hebrew Israelites? Where did you come from? Where did the laws come from? So on and so forth. So these are all dark, melanated people. So I don't see what the problem is. Not like these people were European beforehand. These are all indigenous Asiatics. So I don't see what the problem is. Now, again, I'm going to show you some correlations and show you how some of the prophecies that Noble Drew Ali and some of the topics he spoke about is relevant today. I'm gonna have the Deputy Sheikh Gary Parker Bay read. You have your one-on-ones? I'm sorry, not the one-on-ones, the oral prophecies. Oral prophecies, key 94.
Key 94. One day people are going to be so hungry that the only way you will be able to turn them away will be at the point of a gun. Islam?
Islam. We saw that happen when Katrina hit, right?
Islam.
People were hungry, no food. They were trying to bum rush stores, and they had, you know, the militia out there, Blackwater Special Ops, you know, all these renegade groups hired by the federal government to so-called bring order. And they were killing Asiatics out there and saying, hey, they just drowned or something. And they was begging for food, and they was being turned away with a gun. Now we just had another situation with flooding in Houston, Texas. You know, the Hurricane Irma, did it hit Florida? Anybody know? Was it a lot of damage in Florida? Did it just pass by? Some damage done. Right. Yeah, he's all right? Yeah. And when you really do the math on it, this is a way how they can get people off their property. They see some real estate that's in an influential area. Oh, this natural disaster coming. The National Guard come, you gotta leave. And a lot of people, when they come back, their house is gone, they don't get their property back, so on and so forth. That's what happened when, if anybody ever been to New Orleans, you ever been to, you know, where they have, you know, the Mardi Gras, the hood is right, walking distance. You can walk right down downtown New Orleans. I've been down there. So before Katrina hit, I was in Calio Projects, Magnolia, and all them projects, I got it all on videotape. And I told my cousins, I said, if you think these people are gonna stay in these projects all this time, so close to this, you know, area, French quarters, where all the tourists come, they're gonna somehow get these people off their property. And sure enough, Katrina hit, and all those people lost their property. And if you ain't got the money to get a plane ticket or get on the bus, because a lot of people don't have money, oh, we got a bus for you. Oh, you don't have a place to stay? Oh, we're gonna take you to the FEMA camps. And that's what happened. That's how they put people in them FEMA camps, them concentration camps. All type of stuff going on. Then they said that
they ain't never see each other in there,
and it's on. And then they said some of the FEMA trailers is made with amalgahide, and it has a correlation to cancer and all other type of diseases. So you can see this, you know, what I talked about before, the King Alfred plan being played out. And I seen the machine, you know, some people don't believe in the heart machine and everything. I seen the machine, it created a big cloud, and the clouds made rain. So it is possible. And even if the natural disaster turns out not to be so bad, they still coming with the National Guard. You gotta go. You cannot stay in this house. It's being flooded. And then some of the places, if you do stay, if it does get flooded, and with that mold, now the mold creates toxins and diseases when you're breathing in. So it's a lose-lose situation in some of those places. So we seeing all this being played out in the Caribbean in Houston, Texas, Florida. We seen it playing out in Hurricane Katrina. You know, so this is real. A lot of people used to say, oh, it's conspiracy. Now you see it right before your eyes. Right before your eyes, you see it.